What if I told you that everything you know about ancient Egypt is just the final chapter of a much older, much more mysterious story? We all know the pyramids, the pharaohs, and the golden masks of Tutankhamun. But long before the first dynasty, before the hieroglyphs were ever carved, a different world existed along the Nile. A world of forgotten peoples and hidden civilizations that laid the very foundations for the Egypt we recognize. Today, we're peeling back the layers of sand and time to uncover the truth about who came before the pharaohs. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a journey into a lost world that will completely change how you see ancient Egypt. Let's start our journey around 9000 BC. The Sahara, believe it or not, wasn't a vast desert. It was a lush, green savanna, dotted with lakes and teeming with life. This green paradise was home to early hunter-gatherers, nomadic peoples who followed the herds and lived in tune with a very different climate. Archaeologists have found incredible rock art deep in the desert, in places like the Cave of Swimmers, depicting people swimming in what are now bone-dry landscapes. These aren't Egyptians as we know them, but they're distant ancestors. They left behind tools, pottery, and enigmatic stone circles like Nabta-Plier, which is actually older than Stonehenge. Nabta-Plier is a mind-blowing site. Located in the Nubian desert, it is a collection of stone structures and megaliths ranged in what appears to be a complex astronomical calendar. We're talking about a site built over 7,000 years ago. These early people weren't just surviving, they were observing the stars, tracking the seasons, and creating a sophisticated ceremonial center. They understood celestial alignments, likely for agricultural and ritual purposes. Some researchers even suggest that the concepts of cosmic order and the connection between the heavens and the earth, so central to later Egyptian religion, might have originated right here, in the middle of what is now a barren wasteland. But then, the climate began to change. Around 6000 BC, the rains started to fail, and the Sahara slowly began its transformation into the hyper-arid desert we know today. This dramatic climate shift was a catalyst. It forced these early peoples to migrate, pushing them towards the one reliable source of water that remained, the Nile River Valley. This migration was the single most important event in the formation of ancient Egypt. It brought diverse groups of people, with different skills and traditions, together into one fertile corridor. This melting pot of cultures would become the crucible for the world's greatest civilization. As people settled along the Nile, they transitioned from an nomadic lifestyle to a sedentary one. This period, known as the pre-dynastic era, is where things get really interesting. We see the emergence of distinct cultures, named after the sites where their remains were first discovered. The Badarian culture, for example, which flourished around 3400 BC, is known for its beautiful, thin-walled pottery, often with a distinctive black top. They were some of the earliest full-time farmers on the Nile, cultivating wheat and barley and raising livestock. They also had sophisticated burial practices, interring their dead with personal items like combs, jewelry, and figurines, suggesting a belief in an afterlife or core concept that would define Egyptian civilization for millennia. Following the Badarians came the Naqada cultures, which we divide into three phases, Naqada I, II, and III. This is where we see the rapid acceleration of social complexity. During Naqada I, also known as the Amratian period, settlements grew larger. Trade networks expanded, bringing in materials like obsidian and lapis lazuli from far-off lands. The artwork became more symbolic, with pottery decorated with geometric patterns and images of animals and boats. These boats weren't just for fishing, they were a symbol of power and transport, crucial for connecting communities up and down the Nile. The real explosion of culture happened during the Naqada II period. Society started to stratify. We see the emergence of a clear elite class, evidenced by increasingly elaborate tombs filled with luxury goods. Some tombs, like the famous Tomb 100 at Hierakonpolis, even feature the earliest known painted scenes in Egypt. The mural depicts boats, hunting, and what appears to be a leader figure, suggesting the rise of powerful chieftains or pretty-kings. It's during this time that the seeds of pharaonic power were sown. They were consolidating control over resources, trade routes, and manpower. Iconography that we associate with the pharaohs also begins to appear. We see symbols of power, like the mace, and motifs of a hero figure smiting his enemies. This imagery would become standard in royal propaganda for the next 3,000 years. The Naqadr to people weren't just a collection of villages anymore. They were proto-states, competing and sometimes warring with each other for dominance over the Nile Valley. This competition eventually led to the unification of Egypt. The final phase before history officially begins is Naqadr III. This is the era of unification. Two powerful kingdoms had likely formed, one in Upper Egypt in the south, with its capital at Hierakonpolis, and another in Lower Egypt in the north, centered in the Nile Delta. The story of Egypt's unification is often simplified as a single event, a conquest by a king from the south. The famous Narmer palette, one of the most important artifacts in all of Egyptology, depicts a king named Narmer wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt, seemingly symbolizing this unification through military victory. But the reality was likely more complex, a long process of cultural fusion, political maneuvering, and gradual absorption over many generations. By around 3100 BC, this process was complete. King Narmer, who some believe is the same person as the legendary King Menes, is credited as the first pharaoh of a unified Egypt, founding the first dynasty. With him, the pre-dynastic period ends, and the dynastic or pharaonic period begins. The stage was now set for the construction of the Great Pyramids, the development of a complex writing system, and the rise of a civilization that would captivate the world for thousands of years. So, when we look at the pyramids of Giza or the temples of Karnak, we must remember that they weren't built in a vacuum. They are the culmination of at least 6,000 years of cultural evolution that began with hunter-gatherers in a green Sahara. It was the climate refugees of the drying desert who brought their knowledge of the stars and their early beliefs to the banks of the Nile. It was the Bedouin farmers who first perfected Nile agriculture and honored their dead with care. And it was the powerful chieftains of Naqadr who forged the political and symbolic tools of kingship. The story of pre-pharaonic Egypt is a powerful reminder that every great civilization stands on the shoulders of forgotten giants. The pharaohs may have built the monuments that survived the ages, but the blueprint was drawn long before by the hidden civilizations that thrived and vanished in the sands of time. The next time you see an image of a pharaoh, remember the long, winding journey it took to get there. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Egypt's hidden past. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the forgotten corners of history. And let me know in the comments which ancient mystery you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.